Welcome. As I just mentioned, please share your name and where you are joining us from in our chat. Just a quick note, the Revise Center, we are excited to have you join us for today's webinar. It's called Building Data Literacy Through Hands-On Activities, Part 2. Thank you to anyone in the audience who attended Part 1. If you attended Part 1, you know that this is about to be another great session. My name is Dr. Tiara Tanksley, and I'm a senior researcher in AI and education. And as part of my role here at the Revise Center, I will be your host for today's informal science education event. I'm happy to start today's session with some brief welcoming remarks. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'm going to offer a brief introduction of the Revise Center. So it is an NSF-funded center, resource center, I should say. We share NSF updates pertaining to informal STEM education, also known as ISE, as well as field-wide opportunities and resources focused on advancing informal science education. From sharing resources via our newsletter to hosting informational sessions that support the broader ISE community, such as today's webinar, Revise strives to make meaningful advancements across the informal science education field. Now, before we dive into today's session, I just want to share a few technical details about the session. There we go. Okay, first and foremost, this is very important. In keeping with our privacy policy, we will remove any AI, that is artificial intelligence, note-taking apps that attend the session. This includes, but is not limited to, Otter AI, Fireflies AI, Fathom AI, etc. We do this for data privacy reasons. To be additionally clear, we prohibit all others from recording or screenshotting the content shared today. To access our full privacy policy, please visit informalscience.org/privacy for additional information. Second, this webinar is being recorded by us, so we will make the recording available on our website as soon as it's finalized. For those who may need it, closed captioning is available. To enable closed captioning, click on the CC icon in the meeting controls toolbar. This toolbar is usually located at the bottom of the webinar window. Once closed captions are enabled, they will be displayed in a new closed caption box. You should be able to click and drag the captions box to move the position in the meeting window in case it pops up and covers the main screen. All attendees can leverage the chat and the Q&A features. Please take a moment to identify the chat and the Q&A icons in your meeting control toolbar. You can access these features by clicking the respective icons. Please submit your questions via the Q&A feature, and general comments and conversation may take place in the chat. In fact, we encourage it because when we do some of our research on how our webinar is going so that we can engage in iterative design, we actually look back at the comments to see what things were interesting to our participants, what do people want to know more about. And so we use that information to make our future webinars more tailored to your interests in real time. Okay. So just some session engagement norms as a reminder, okay? This webinar is part of Revise Center's greater commitment to providing resources to the ISC, informal science education field. It is our goal that this webinar offers a harassment-free environment and a welcoming experience for all of our attendees. As such, we offer our session engagement norms to guide engagements during today's session. So here's 3 of them. Your story, your choice. Decide how and which stories to share and which to keep. Number 2, reciprocity and accountability. We ask that all in attendance interact with respect to others. And finally, conversations end in a comma, not a period. Our conversations do not end after the session. We encourage the continuation and momentum of conversations you experience, which is, again, why we encourage you to connect with each other in the chat. Okay. This is important, y'all, okay? As a reminder, the STEM K-12 solicitation is still open. They're looking for proposals. You all have wonderful proposals. You know people who have wonderful proposals. This is our reminder to please submit. There was an office hour, I believe it was last week, where the PO officers ahead of the STEM K-12 solicitation gave us 3 points of clarification around the solicitation. And so I just want to take a moment to reiterate those points here for those of you who may have attended but need a refresher, or maybe who didn't attend, and this will be helpful. This will be new information. So first and foremost, the STEM K-12 has an expansive focus, right? The name is a little bit of a misnomer because it kind of seems like STEM K-12 only talks about or is only oriented towards formal education spaces or the K-12 pipeline. But please be advised that STEM K-12 does encourage projects that cover both formal and informal learning settings, as well as learners of all ages from birth through adulthood, okay? The solicitation also has a lot of emphasis on AI emerging tech. However, the POs want to remind us that these are not exclusive focus areas, right? So proposals focused on informal STEM learning and on non-AI topics are welcomed by STEM K-12, and they will be given the same consideration, right? They're not going to be deprioritized because they don't include AI. So if you have work that you were, not really sure you wanted to submit because it wasn't about emerging tech or AI, here's your signal, right? Here's your message to submit it. And then finally, they did want to remind our audience that there are other project types. Informal STEM learning PIs are welcome to submit for these other calls, eager, rapid, or planning proposals. This is in addition to the research and conference proposals. So if you are interested in these other solicitations, please refer to the NSF PA PPG for additional information on how to prepare proposals for those calls. Okay. What? Hold on. I got like 3 screens up, y'all. Okay. So we are excited to dive into today's session with our panelists. So I'd like to invite our team up to the virtual stage. And the project that they are all coming from today is called Mathematizing, Visualizing, and Power, MVP. Appalachian Youth Becoming Data Artists for Community Learning. Y'all, I'm so excited for this. I'm going to hand the mic over to you all to introduce yourselves and the project.
Sure. Thank you, Tara. Hi, everyone. Let me share my screen first. Can you see my screen?
Yep, looks great.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi, everybody. I'm Yilang Zhao. I'm an assistant professor of educational data science from University at Buffalo. Ethan, would you like to introduce yourself as well? A quick introduction.
Hello, my name's Ethan Pinataro. All my students call me Mr. P, but I am a high school art teacher. I teach 9th through 12th grade at Gibbs High School in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Thank you. We also want to give biggest credit to Dr. Lin Hodge, our PI from University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Okay, so let's get started. So our project is called MVP. So MVP stands for Mathematizing, Visualizing, and Power. These are the 3 main pillars of our project. So MVP is a 3-year NSF-funded AISL, Advanced Informal STEM Learning project. So the core idea of this project is to encourage middle and high schoolers to dive deep into their communities. So learn about their perceived crucial issues in their communities and collect relevant data from their communities, and ultimately communicate those issues with artistic data visualizations to their community members. Because we believe our kids, they have the eyes for discovering community issues, but they need some space and they need some opportunities to actually showcase their understanding of their community. So that's why we plan this project, and we bring this project to different areas in Eastern Tennessee.
Yeah, so why connect data and art? Like Elon just kind of introduced, the main purpose was to improve accessibility of data science learning. Traditional data science often involves just coding and kind of visual generation, or data visual generation, which kind of has application barriers, also learning barriers for some students. And connecting data and art allows personalized expression, interpretation, and communication of data, and makes data science more accessible to students from marginalized groups and or rural Appalachian areas. We worked with everyone from students at Boys and Girls Club in a couple different iterations. And we also worked with students at my high school, which is a rural community that doesn't get a whole lot of representation throughout the rest of the county and school system. Where I don't know, I wouldn't say we're forgotten about a lot of the time, but a lot of folks do forget about us. So it kind of gives us a little more of a voice and a connectivity point with those students that might not really love math or might not really love art or know how to kind of make something happen with those two things together.
Yeah. So our MVP model. So in this project, we want to propose this learning model so that later others can also design their own MVP project. So like what Ethan mentioned, so we want to start with young people. We want to know who they are, where they're from, and well, which communities they belong to. And then we use design principles. We design the learning activities, we design learning sessions, and we design different community events for them. And then the next part is in our MVP program, we have several learning sessions. And in these learning sessions, our students learn like some kind of data skills and also art skills. So they need to go both ways. They need to know some data and they need to know some arts. And we also have community learning. So during the learning sessions, we also have several community learning events. In those community learning events, students actually share their learning with people from their communities, like their friends, their parents, their family members. So everybody from their community, they can come to this open space to talk to our students, who we call data artists. So once they talk to their data artists, our data artists can learn more about the community issues from the community members. And they also collect data from their community members in later community learning events. At the same time, during the break, we don't have students and we don't have access to their family members as well. So we have some workshops. So we basically host workshops with local educators, with researchers, and also sometimes we invite previous data artists into our workshops. So in these workshops, we actually learn from them. We want to know what we can do better to improve their experience in the MVP program. And also, we want to know more about their thoughts about having this kind of program for them.
Yeah, so the way we did this is it was an after school program, and it had 5 cycles. Each cycle lasted between 13 and 14 weeks, with a 90-minute learning session per week. For cycles 1 and 2, we hosted the MVP program, like I said earlier, at an after school program in downtown Knoxville. So in urban setting, each cycle had around 25 participants, and those first 2 were middle school students. And for cycle 3, we hosted students at an after school program and at a rural high school in Knox County, for a total of more than 40 participants. And then cycle 4, there were students at an urban social service building in downtown Knoxville with 8 high school participants. Cycle 5 was around 10 students at a rural K through 12 school and community center.
Okay, so this is a flow chart for our MVP program. So we basically segment the entire program into 3 different segments. So the first segment from week 1 to week 3, we call it data visualization reimagining, because at the beginning of this program, students have no idea about what data art looks like. So we show them existing data visualization, like artistic data visualization, but we don't want them to like replicate the data visualization or just look at the data visualization. We actually want them to reimagine the data visualization. What kind of message you can read from the existing artistic data visualization? and how to tell your own stories about the given data visualization before we actually show them the messages from the authors of those data visualizations. And then after that, we have the community learning event one. So usually our students will share their understanding of or their comprehension of the existing data visualization to the community members, get prepared for the second segment, which is from week 4 to week 7. So we call it trees, green spaces, and the connected topics. So we show them some trees related maps of Knoxville. So on those maps, students can actually see like different areas in the city of Knoxville have different like average temperature and have different like green space coverage. So and then we ask them to explore these topics more, and we actually give them the data about those like tree coverage and also access to gardens, like those map-based data. Then they need to create your own data visualization. So based on their understanding of the tree of the map data, we ask them to create their own data visualization. So this is the preparation for the third, which is the most important segment of this program. So the third segment is their own final project. So in week 8 to 10, we actually have almost 3 weeks for our students to explore their final project topics. We have roundtables with them, and we have like several rounds of discussion about what kind of community issues are existing in your communities. And we also ask them to think about what kind of data they need to collect and what kind of instrument they need to use to collect data. For example, do they like what kind of questions they need to include in their Google Forms in order to get data from their community members. And we also want them to briefly think about like how to design their final data visualization, what kind of materials they need for their final data visualization. And after that, we have our second community learning event. During this second community learning event, our data artists, they actually collect data from local community members. They ask questions, they distribute those Google Forms, they get the answers from their community members, which they can use as their final project data. And after that, from week 11 to week 14, they are working on their final project with chosen topic and art media. And after that, we have a grand showcase for them to show their data visualizations to their community members. We have this at a local community college art gallery. We also hosted this event at the local rural high school. And we also host this event at the social work organization. So we host this event at different places in order to bring this project, bring this idea to more people in this area.
Yes. A CLE, like we talked about, is a community learning event, and they are really kind of the most important component of the MVP program. The CLEs usually take place in a spot that's different from the MVP session. So there would be 3 or 4 CLEs in an MVP cycle. Like Elon mentioned, we've had them at community centers. We had them at the high school I teach at. We had the CLEs also at a small local business that just happened to be like a gathering space for people in my community. We had them at a community center that students would go to in one of our cycles as another after school kind of program besides the Boys and Girls Club. And this provides a space for the participants to communicate their in-progress work and or collect data from community members. Like Elon said, they could, people could come in and scan a QR code to the Google form that the student would have ready, or some other sort of survey, or maybe even links or handouts to provide information to get the community members thinking about the questions and what data the students are trying to collect, and kind of reflect on that a little bit. And the community members that were involved in the CLE included everyone from peers, teachers, parents, business owners, kind of everyone. A really, really nice cross section. And the last CLE is kind of like a gallery show of all of the work that the students produced based off of the data that they collected. And CLEs were all open to the public. We try to get as many people to the CLEs as possible to not only get a really good variety for the data that was gathered, but also really just to make ourselves known and let people know what we were doing, what we were trying to accomplish, and why data visualizations and data science are such an important part of our world. Here's some pictures of the CLEs and learning sessions that happened. Actually, I believe, yeah, these are all photos from my high school here. You can see one of the CLEs happened in our library or our media center. There's some art making shots in my art classroom there, in that top middle, and the bottom row also are students kind of like making their products, making their artwork, processing data, using any sort of materials they wanted to use. We really try to keep it open, which you'll see in a few minutes when I show you guys some of the actual data visualizations. We really tried to leave the art media absolutely open and available to them, and we even started with with pretty much all of the cycles that I was the art teacher on record for. Opening it to the students, like at the very beginning, like, what do you think you want to make artwork with that maybe you've never used before? Maybe it's something you're really comfortable with. Maybe you're a math person that's never taken like a higher level studio art class, and you don't know anything. So I'm going to show you everything that we have. So we kind of ran the gauntlet and the gamut on all of the art making materials. And you'll see in a minute, each student used a really, really good variety of materials in the work I'm going to show you.
Okay, MVP is a really, really big project. So the MVP research, it consists of like three different strands. So we divided into these three different aspects in order to understand what's going on in this big program. So the first strand is about data science and art learning. So we asked several research questions like how do students establish connections between data and art practices within data art inquiry program, and how do they establish their personal relevance with data in a data art inquiry program. And also, we really care about our the community-centered learning because, like we introduced, community learning event is one of the most important components in this project. So that's why we also want to have these community-centered learning as one of our research strengths. So example questions like how are relationships created and sustained with community members before, during, and after community learning events. And we also explored what design processes of MVP are used to create and modify entry points for future community learning events. At the same time, because MVP is a design-based research project, we also care about the design of this entire project, the design of our instructional sessions, our instructional materials. So that's why we also ask these kind of design questions. So some example research questions are, what design considerations are raised in designing data visualization activities that integrate multidisciplinary, critical, and community-centered approaches? And also, we noticed that there were tensions. So that's why we also explore what tensions are present in this design process and how do those tensions related to the integration of those approaches.
And to piggyback on that, the evolution of each cycle was pretty apparent in our group of educators, researchers. We did a lot of kind of back and forth to kind of fine tune each cycle and really use that feedback from each community learning event to kind of make them as strong as we could. So just to kind of start talking a little bit about data visualization and artist statements, I'm going to show you guys some examples here of some of the finished work from the cycle that was at the high school level, and we'll take it from there. So here's one example. So when we open the data visualizations or the final data kind of like project or piece that the student would produce, we would give them really an option or options on that were open on how they really wanted to produce their data visualization based off of the data they collected. They could go completely and purely abstract if they wanted to. They could make a more kind of traditional data visualization that showed almost like a chart or a graph. However they really wanted to process the data really was up to them. This is kind of a little more on the abstract side of actually like process to product. But this student used plaster and acrylic paint. And their data was all you can kind of see in the little note here or in their artist statement. Their data was kind of about how work ethic they felt like was declining in their own generation, but also how their younger generation wasn't really like taking an active approach in finding out more about like what was shaping the world around them. And their work was you can kind of see, you get that sense of wanting to shield this flame. Those are candles. The hands actually come out of the piece. They're cast hands. And they're shielding the flames of the candles from the water and kind of wind and overlap or like lapping up in the artwork itself. So this is kind of more of an expression of how they process their data after the fact. Here's a really good example of an artist, a data artist that combined elements of a traditional data visualization with a very, very strong approach in art making materials. This piece is completely constructed of felt and fabric pieces, and you can see the kind of graph elements and that act of like that bird that's carrying this kind of this is a student as a puppet. But this piece is really kind of investigating social media's connection to consumption and overconsumption. Specifically, they found in their data that a lot of their peers, you can see that high mountain peak on the left-hand side. That's like how many of their peers spent a lot of time on social media compared to other age groups, and how they kind of like how they connected consumption, overconsumption, and want of things to their screen time, which I thought was a really interesting approach. And I love this data visualization. It's a pretty large one too. This is about, I think this was 16 by 20 inches, and it's all cut felt and yarn. Another really great example of a data visualization that kind of that speaks on a number of levels. I love this piece because it kind of combines a really strong element of not only a nod to we talked a lot about cultural appropriation in some of our CLEs and kind of like taking things out of context. How do you look at a visualization and know you're looking at a data visualization versus just an artwork that might be expressing something else? And this artist decided to do their piece or their data collection on sleep schedules and how people felt it impacted their school and work. And you can see their key was presented with the piece. And we talked about, well, do you want the key to be with it? Do you want a viewer to be able to really like process what each strand of the dream catcher means and what those beads mean? Or do you want this to kind of be more of like an abstract expression, and they felt like it was really important to show that key, and they also really wanted the viewer to know that they made aesthetic choices to not include some of the data in the Dreamcatcher, which I thought is really interesting as well. On where does data representation meet aesthetic choice in a really comfortable way? Going pure abstraction, but with a key as well. We talked in depth, the student and myself, with is the key important here? But I thought this was a really interesting approach to data visualization. This artist made these purely abstract pieces, these collages, that each piece represents a different person's response to their data collection and their data set. And here, I mean, they asked them a lot of variety of questions, so it wasn't really necessarily trying to make like a really strong statement with the viewer. It was really trying to make a strong expression of how each person that took and answered their questions processed the questions, and then how they wanted to process their answers into a unique kind of abstracted piece that represented that person's almost brain and response for those different questions. Here, this is another great response or data visualization. That's a response that is kind of like almost like a purely artistic response without having any sort of or key or data set with it. But this artist decided to throw these are two different ceramic pieces, but they threw the bases of these on a pottery wheel, and then they hand built the other sculptures. And they were all of their data was about or questions were collecting data about people's views on global warming and the effects of global warming, and trying to process, kind of showing the impact, but also make a beautiful piece at the same time, that just kind of displayed their views on what they found in their data set. So playing with the idea of this like large kind of these animals that obviously represent the ecosystem, but playing with these large base elements that are dark and kind of a little foreboding. Here you can see I thought this was a really great piece. This person actually did plaster casts of their face and then made them up and painted them in different ways. This was a student that didn't have a lot of art background and was actually more on they were more on the math side of things, which I thought was really interesting, because they did this very expressive piece that represented different generations' views on mental health, and kind of flattening out the face to them kind of was representative of one generation, and then treating these different, like each generation, how much they did to each mass kind of represented how they felt or what their answers were from the data set of the data they collected of what the expression was by each generation. So she asked when folks were born, how they felt about their own mental health, how they felt about others' mental health, and then how they felt about our kind of the social constructs around mental health and how we respond to that. And I believe this is the last one I selected. I just felt like this was a really great representation of this is a response based off of like I said, we're in a pretty rural community where I teach, even though we're really close to Knoxville, which is not a really large city, but also not small by any means. We've had a lot of growth in this rural community right outside of the city, and a lot of this generation of students that we have at the moment have seen a lot of the fields and pastures that were around their houses and homes and neighborhoods start turning into these kind of like subdivisions. And this artist decided to collect data about the population in the community and why people were moving there, what the purpose of this housing was that they saw happening, and the sale of the land that's been in our area that's been happening. And while their data uh, kind of supported a lot of what they thought or how they felt about that, rather than make something that was like super data oriented, because the houses don't really represent any number and the cows don't really represent any number, other than the fact that a very strong it's a very weighted image on that left hand side, and the number of cows is dwindling in comparison. So they really just wanted to kind of make a point about their data and about the community's kind of like vision of what was happening.
Thank you, Ethan, for introducing those data visualizations.
Mhm.
I would say MVP, the project MVP is not ended. So we also have some follow-up ideas. So we have biggest three ideas following the MVP project. So the first idea is we want to amplify the voice from our community. So in the previous cycles, our community members, they just come to our community learning events, and students collect data from them. So most likely, they are just like providing data, and they come to learn what's going on there. So we also want to get them involved into this data investigation process. We want them to sit together with our data artists to work together with them. So we believe with this kind of work together style learning, we can amplify the voice from our communities. The second is we also want to explore the integration of digital data tools, such as CODAP. Although the MVP project, the goal of MVP project is to make data science learning more accessible, we believe some students, they want to process like a larger volume of data. So it's very hard for them to actually process like a large volume of data without any digital tools. So that's why we aim to explore the integration of some kind of digital data tools, but it will not be the central focus of this project for sure. The third is we also want to bring the MVP project to other regions to provide accessible interdisciplinary data science education. Because we believe every single region has their own problems, and every single community has their own problems. So MVP should not be limited in the Eastern Tennessee area. We believe that other cities, other regions, you can also have your own MVP. So that's why we want to make it a learning model so that others can follow the instructions and then create their own MVP program. Okay, so if you want to learn more about the MVP project, you can visit our project website, mvp-project.com, mvp-project.com. And if you want to learn more about MVP research, please use this link, tinyurl.com/mvppub, tinyurl.com/mvppub. I hope you enjoy our introduction of the MVP program.
So I did see a question about let's see, did students enroll over multiple cycles? And Yolan, you might know that answer better than I did. I don't remember any repeat participants in my group. I didn't know if you had in any of the ones I wasn't a direct part of. I don't know if you had any repeats.
No, yeah, because each single iteration of MVP program is hosted in different sites. So we have different sites, so it's very hard for students to come to different sites to have another cycle. And another thing is we at the very beginning, we actually plan to have previous data artists come to later cycles as like teaching assistants. But due to some logistic issues, it didn't happen. But we really, really wanted to happen.
And I did on the slideshow that we're showing you. I just unhid the other artwork slides that I didn't talk about for time purposes, and you guys don't want to hear me ramble about artwork for 45 minutes because I could do it for longer than that. But I did or show all of the work that we have there, and I'm more than happy if you have any questions about materials, process, how maybe even some of the data artists that we showed some of the artists to get them rolling at the beginning and thinking about data visualizations. We do have that. We do have access to that as well.
Yeah, first of all, let me just say I would have been totally fine sitting here for the entire time looking at the data glitching. Like that was incredible. I was sitting here like, how old are these? You said middle school and high school?
Yeah, all the artwork I showed you was from 9th through 12th graders.
Still, I mean, if I showed y'all my art, you would understand why I am so flabbergasted. Okay. So I have a couple just like quick clarifying questions, and then I'll jump into some of the things that were coming up in the chat. I was actually wondering, you mentioned, bringing together math and art. You have students who maybe are like, I don't really see myself as a math person, but I'm coming for the art. And then you have the students who are like, I'm actually a numbers person, don't know how I feel about art. And there might be some folks who don't see themselves in either of those. What was the recruitment like? How did you get folks from these three perhaps camps to participate? And did you see that there were more, of one group than the other?
So I can speak to my group at my school a little bit more. So I did bring on a math teacher into the fold when we did the iteration at my school. And the way we decided to do it was we decided to come up with a long list and narrow that list down. So she had a group of students that she knew were more math oriented. I had a group of like what I felt were pure kind of studio students that may want to explore art out after high school. Same for her with the mathematicians. And then we also tried to incorporate students that we knew were, or not that we knew, but that we felt might kind of bridge that a little bit and be, maybe they're strong in math, but don't love it. Maybe they're strong in art, but aren't going to do anything with it. So we were able to kind of like pick our group a little bit, which was very nice. And getting buy-in from the students at the beginning wasn't really that hard because they were pretty interested in it. And I think it was just maybe I'm very passionate about this because I am terrible at math, and math ruined school for me when I was a child. I mean, just to be honest.
Yeah.
And a lot of the students, or some of the art sided students, kind of knew that about me, but they also knew that I had been a part of this for a while because I had talked about it in my classroom, and I had been showing them, even though I don't like math, I still teach a lot of interdisciplinary lessons, and I try to show them such a wide variety of interdisciplinary artwork. I'll also answer a couple of the questions I saw. The community members, the students were compensated through the grant, and guiding the students to get them to collect info that wasn't too sensitive. That's a really good question. At the high school level, we let the students ask pretty much any questions they wanted to. We wanted it to be a pure kind of expression of what they were curious about. We did talk about some hot button topics that they could ask about if they wanted to. We did talk about, how do you ask this question in a way that's actually going to provide you with a way to collect data from it, and rather than it just become like a pure, kind of like rage piece or like fluff piece on something. So good questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have something to add on here. So we also have some younger kids, they're middle schoolers. So for those kids, it actually took more time to discuss with them, to help them explore the questions they want to ask. So in one, actually, I would say in two of our previous cycles, so we hosted, I would say, at least 2 or 3 rounds of round table. So we have facilitators sit together with kids, try to inspire them to think about what is unfair when you see something, why you think it's unfair, and what actually caused unfairness. So we asked them to think about this kind of social justice issues and let them to think about what critical issues they need to pay attention to in their communities. So yeah, I don't want to say that every single student came to the project with their own idea. No, it's impossible. So it actually took a lot of time to cultivate the ideas. So I think roundtable is a really great strategy to let them explore what they want to show in their final project.
Yeah, we had a lot of collaborative conversations too, with all of the groups, whether it was the middle schoolers or the high school. We tried to like group folks up a little bit when they did have those roundtables as well. Like you mentioned, if we saw kind of a common thread or a common topic, like if I remember students at my school, we had a few that were thinking about food deserts and food scarcity and income related issues to that we were able to kind of like we funneled them into a group to kind of talk about their ideas and maybe if they were going to approach it in different ways. We talked about some groups that were talked a number of students were thinking about uh kind of like government spending and thinking about they were a number of them were getting ready to apply to colleges and think about visiting schools and thinking about school loans and that kind of thing. So there was a good variety across the board. I feel like in all of our groups, we always had some students that took a more lighthearted approach, and maybe their data they collected was about sports or art or video games, music, and others were on a more serious kind of bend.
I mean, I
I
love
see. Oh,
that.
sorry.
I was just going to comment on that, that I love that it's open to students to select what they're interested in, just because I know that sometimes students are tapped out with having to problem solve social issues, right? So it is nice to be like, this is up to you. If you want to do it about video games, and that's something that is serious to you, then like, yes, let's do that. So I that's really refreshing to hear that they're not, pressured to do one topic or the other.
Yeah, I see a question. Do you happen to follow students into college to see what they decide to major in? I would say this is a very, very interesting topic. We do want to follow up with them. Hopefully, we can still get connected with them. If you remember, for the like mental health masks, so I remember that data artist. She told us that she really wanted to be a therapist in the future. That's why she chose to do this topic because she really wanted to get to know, like to help people, to know people, to help people. So I would say for some data artists, they use this way to actually show people their career choice. So it's a very good opportunity for them to think about their what kind of things they want to do in the future and what kind of majors they want to choose in the college.
Yeah, the a few of the artists I can speak for. They are doing something that is related to what their artwork or what their data collection was about. One of the students that did I did. It's in the slideshow. It's one of the ones I didn't talk about. She did a collage about government spending and student loans. Her sister graduated before her and is actually in Washington right now, and she is kind of on her way there through UT, working in public work and government. Yeah, and the artist actually the plaster hands. He's actually getting into education for ceramics and doing production work, but he's also He's also doing a little bit of work with psychology as well, which is very fitting. So
That is
yeah.
awesome. Wow. I mean, it makes sense, you know, like when you see the pieces and then you hear what they're doing. And it just goes to show once again that like the schooling experience is so profound in young people's lives. Like I think there's a majoritarian narrative that says kids don't know what they want to do, and we need to like tell them, right? Because they're like listless and they don't have a trajectory in mind. And then you open a space like this, and it's not only them bringing this powerful view of like math and art, but then also they're weaving in community interests and problem solving and their personal career trajectories. Like that
Mhm.
is incredibly like complicated, and I'm always impressed whenever I'm with young people because I don't remember being that savvy when I was in high school.
What's really fun about this too is we took that ceiling away of like how much time they had to put into their piece ultimately. We wanted them to be quality works, but what is that? Like what does that
Yeah.
look like for individual artists? And we also took away the ceiling of like doing something that necessarily was like a big overarching kind of like social commentary or something along those lines. And we do that through showing them a lot of data visualization on the front end that kind of toes both of those lines a little bit. And I try to like I try to do a demo piece, and I show them a demo piece that I make where it's a purely abstract painting where it's literally a representation of one class block of how many students ask me a question and what is that question about. But
Mm.
it's just a data visualization that represents an interaction. And that is like, there's no big heady thinking there. It's really just a matter of interpreting. How can you interpret basically hash marks into an artwork somehow? So, we show them kind of everything across those lines.
Yeah, that's incredible. I have one logistical question. One thing that's been coming up in our conversations with practitioners is how to get community members to events, right? Like what do you do? Because folks have been like, they have these awesome projects, but then sometimes they just don't know how to get families in because of like, people have work schedules or there's logistical issues. And so I'm just curious, it sounds like you all have been pretty successful at getting community participation across these like three workshops, but also like the larger 5 cycle run. Do you have any advice for our practitioners?
I would say no, it's not always successful. Sometimes it can be really struggling.
Mhm.
We actually had one cycle. We had a really good gallery setup. We only got like five community members come. We had over 20 students in that cycle. Yeah, I would say for some sites, for example, the rural high school site, the school itself was actually a community center for
Mhm.
most of the people there. If we have an event, they know there's an event and they will come. And when their kids ask them to come, they will come. But in some like urban settings, I would say people don't want to come because of like some holiday events. If it's in the fall cycle, when it's approaching end, there are holiday events. And also, I would say sometimes it might be because of the weather. It's too hot out there. People just don't want to come. And
Yeah.
because of the commute time, it takes too long to get to the site. So they don't want to come. Yeah, I would say the first of all, I think our PI, Dr. Hodge, she has a really good relationship with our community partners, and she has really good gatekeepers at those sites. So they actually help us a lot in terms of recruitment. Other than that, I would say probably just try to publicize the event a little bit more. We try to have all our flights at different places, libraries, restaurants. Yeah, and we also hosted one of our events at a local ice skating center.
Oh,
So yeah, kids were really into that space, and we invite people to that place. Ethan, do you have any add-on about this?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. I will say I think one of the barriers with the group, especially at the urban setting, it was we were dealing with a population of a little bit more lower income folks. So a lot of their family members might have been working
yeah.
or dealing with childcare for the rest of the family, so on and so forth. So yeah, it really kind of felt a little bit determined on what our audience was, um and also kind of like how connected to the other realms of the community those students or community members wanted to be to really put themselves out there. We had a hard time, especially with one group that I felt like they just, they didn't have uh, a lot of like buy-in to really tell everyone about what they were doing.
Got you.
Oh, I also have an add-on here. It's not about like community event members. It's about like getting into the communities and what kind of topics we should introduce. Uh, in the cycle 5, we went to that rural K to 12 school. We recruited 6 data artists, and one of them actually dropped after day 1 because she came back and talked to her parents about what kind of activities we have done. So in day 1, we introduced some kind of like gender inequality, and
Yeah.
also about like the spending, like the county budget plan, like different spendings in different areas. And her parents thought those were like inappropriate topics
Mm.
for their kid. So they just forced this girl to quit from our program. Yeah, it was very pitiful, but we totally understand people have different thoughts in different areas and in different communities. They have their own thoughts, they have their own values, and we totally respect. But when I would say when you are doing like community-based work, I would say probably we need to consider some kind of aspects like this because yeah, we need to respect people, respect their thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, part of the whole situating science into the community is being receptive to the wide range of perspectives that, sustain that community. Well, y'all, we are at time. So let me go ahead and do my closing slides really quick. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, let me see. Okay, y'all, just a few last minute housekeeping type things. We have a post-session survey. We're researchers. We want to know what y'all think. So please go ahead and take the survey. I believe it's going to be put in the chat. Help us iterate on this design, right? Next, EBSCO. I'm like the biggest fan of EBSCO. I say this every time. We have free access to EBSCO. EBSCO is essentially, when you're looking up those scientific journals and those publications, if you want to read all the articles that our panelists throughout the series, but especially today, have posted, and maybe you don't have institutional access because paywalls exist. Here is your way of getting access to those articles. So if this is something you're interested in, go ahead and follow this link and we'll send you login information for how to use EBSCO. And then we have one more opportunity this season. I don't know whether it's called the spring semester or, we have a range of people in here. But I'm going to say semester. The end of the semester is upon us, right? And so our last event is June 18th, where our feature topic is going to be storytelling through film and media to deepen public engagement with science. This is a super interesting session, very similar. We're kind of building off of this data literacy topic because we're going to dive even deeper into art and media. And so if you want to connect with us, here's our information, right? Find us online at the website, LinkedIn, and our email. All right. And until next time, bye, y'all.